Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of The Technical Gentleman. In today's episode, we are going to be starting our level 1 topics. So just as a reminder, these are topics that are either very, very easy to get set up and come at a minimal cost and convenience, or else there are topics that are so essential that moving on to further levels of privacy and security don't make sense without having already implemented them. And today we're going to be covering one of those topics. This is going to be both very, very easy to get set up, and it's also going to be completely essential. So today we are talking about VPNs, or virtual private networks. If there is one thing, if I'm talking to somebody and they're wanting to increase their digital privacy and security, if there is one thing that everybody ought to be using all the time, and it's probably the greatest single thing you can be doing to help secure and privatize your digital life, it is to get yourself a VPN. So what is a VPN? So remember in our last educational video, we talked a little bit about what a normal internet connection looks like. And it was kind of this two-step process where you reach out to your internet service provider and they, with the website name, the domain name that you want to connect to, and they send that request off to one of their DNS servers that is like that big phone book, and it returns an IP address, which is the actual location of the web server you're trying to connect to. And then that gets sent back to your computer, and your computer again reaches out to your internet service provider, and your internet service provider creates that connection between your computer and the server that you're trying to connect to that's hosting that website. And remember in that video, we had said that in this particular situation, everybody knows everything, right? So your internet service provider is facilitating all of this. They know who you are. They know where you're connecting to. The DNS server that you're using, they know who you are and where you're connecting to. And the web server that you're connecting to, be that Facebook or Google or whoever else you're going to connect to, they also have your IP address, so they know exactly who you are. So in this particular situation, everybody knows everything about what it is that you're trying to do. Obviously, if we're worried about digital privacy and security, the first thing we need to do is deal with this problem and secure this connection. So this is where a VPN is going to come in. So this is another little very, very high quality graphic that I made. Basically what a VPN is it acts as an additional hop point between you and the website that you're trying to visit. So instead of, if I want to connect to Amazon and buy something off of Amazon, instead of connecting to Amazon directly, what I'm actually doing is I'm first connecting to one of these VPN servers. Usually, so it's something usually you install a program on your computer that kind of facilitates this, and you are connecting to whatever VPN you've chosen via this application. And what's going on is the internet connection is actually encrypted, and it's kind of sent through this encrypted tunnel to this VPN server, where it is then finally decrypted and sent off to the actual server that you're going to. So your internet service provider, who's kind of standing in the middle, isn't actually connecting you to this website you're trying to visit. It's just connecting you to this VPN server. And they can't see what's inside of this little encrypted tunnel that's created between you and the VPN server. So for one of the benefits of this is that it is effectively cutting your internet service provider out of this exchange. All of a sudden, your internet service provider can't actually see what websites you're connecting to. They can see that you're connecting to a VPN, but they have no idea where you're going after that. So that's one huge security and privacy hole that is cut out by this. A good VPN will provide their own DNS servers as well, so there's no chance of some kind of third-party DNS server getting and seeing where you're connecting to. So basically after your connection reaches this VPN, your connection is decrypted, so the VPN can see where it is you're visiting, and they forward the connection to the website you're actually trying to visit, whether that be Amazon or Google or whoever. And so then you have this connection between your computer and the website. But the website instead of having access to your IP address so they can see who you are, they can only see that they're getting a connection coming from a particular VPN server. So all of a sudden, it's now very difficult to tie that activity back to you, because that IP address that uniquely identifies your computer to the world is all of a sudden hidden from the websites that you're visiting. So you can see where the advantage in this lies. Now, this is not it doesn't mean that they can't find out who you are. If you go to Amazon.com and you log into your account and you're using your real name and your credit card, obviously Amazon's going to know who you are, right? Same thing with Facebook. You go to Facebook, you log into Facebook. Facebook doesn't need your IP address to know that you're you if you're logging into Facebook. So understand what it's doing and what it's not. It's hiding your IP address from the websites you're visiting, but it's only hiding that. There's other ways they can track you, so you need to be aware of that. It's not like the one catch-all thing. There's other things we are going to have to do, but this is an excellent first step. So just to go through it all one more time, you have an encrypted tunnel between you and this VPN server that your ISP, your internet service provider, or anybody else who's trying to snoop on your local network to see what you're doing, they can't get through that. And so that your ISP only sees that you're connecting to a VPN. They don't see where you're going. Once you hit the VPN, they handle all the DNS stuff, and they send your connection onto the website. The website only sees the IP address of the VPN server that you're connecting from. They don't see your IP address. So that's how this works. We can talk about some of the benefits and drawbacks here. So again, the two biggest benefits to this are that it's locking your IP, your ISP, your internet service provider out of this equation so they can't see where you're connecting to. It's also preventing the sites you're visiting from seeing your IP address. VPNs have, usually whatever VPN service you end up going with will have servers in many different countries. So you can actually choose which country servers you want to connect to, and that will allow you to appear like you're actually coming from a different country than you really are, which is pretty cool. And the other thing is that it is encrypting this connection. So if you're on like a public Wi-Fi network, for example, it's surprisingly easy to, if you're a malicious hacker and you want to collect somebody's data, one of the best places to do that is on a public Wi-Fi network, because those public Wi-Fi networks are often very, very insecure. So anybody with it doesn't take too much tech knowledge to do this. You go set up with your laptop and some various stuff, and you can actually monitor. If you're in a public Wi-Fi setting, you can be monitoring other people's connections and actually stealing their information that way. This method of encrypting your internet connection protects against that. So it's a really useful tool for that. There are some drawbacks, but they're pretty minor. One of which is that this usually is going to come at a cost of some internet speed. Not a crazy amount of cost. You might be talking like 10% or something like that. It's going to depend on which VPN service you're using and which VPN server you're connecting to. Obviously, if you're connecting to a VPN server that's 2 hours away from you, that's going to come at a much lower cost than if you were connecting to a VPN server on the other side of the world. So you do have to be aware of that cost, but that's usually pretty negligible cost. Not something you would notice in your day-to-day. The other drawback that I found is that occasionally you will run into a website that does not allow connections from somebody using a VPN. So they can see the VPN's IP address, and those are usually pretty well known. And you know, so any site that sees that could choose potentially to block connections from lists of known VPN servers. I've run into this a few times using a VPN in my daily life. Usually it's not, it comes up pretty rarely in my experience, but you do see it from time to time. My solution to that, it would usually be not to use those websites, because usually there are good alternatives that actually value your privacy. But that is one of those costs that can come along as you're securing your digital life. It comes at a cost of convenience. So occasionally you're going to run into a website that isn't going to like you for using a VPN. My solution is don't use websites that don't value your privacy. But if you need to use that particular website, you're going to need to be aware of that and be prepared to, if you have to, disable that VPN to connect to that site if you really, really, really need to visit that site. So just be aware of that. So when we're looking at what kind of VPN we want to get, there's some things we want to be looking out for here. So VPNs are usually paid subscription services that you're paying for them. You can find free VPNs out there for use. Do not use a free VPN. The way that a free VPN is making their money is by collecting your data. So what you want is to be looking for a VPN that is paid for, that is not keeping logs on the things that its users are doing. It's not selling that information. You're looking for a VPN that actually values your privacy. Those are always going to be paid VPNs. So don't go install some free VPN on your computer, and you're better off not having one than you are using a free one. You want to make sure that they're using strong encryption. Most modern VPNs are using strong encryption, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. I really like having a VPN that provides their own DNS servers. If you're not using a VPN's DNS servers, you're having to use somebody's, and usually that's going to end up being your ISPs or Google's or Cloudflare's, and I don't really trust any of those. So I would, when you're looking for one, look for one that uses their own DNS servers. Again, make sure you're looking for one that doesn't keep logs. Now, a lot of them will promise that they don't keep logs, but every now and then you hear some news story about some VPN gets hacked and, you know, they are actually keeping logs for a good month and a bunch of people's data gets leaked. So do some research into what VPN you're going to be looking for, and make sure that they are reputable and that they're kind of well known for not keeping logs. You're also going to want to look for one. This is going to get a little complicated, but you're going to want to look for VPN that is based outside of what is commonly referred to as the 14 eyes in the tech community. What this is this is a number of countries that have kind of agreed to share surveillance data about their citizens with each other for sake of kind of criminal prosecution. But really, it's often used as a way to, it's infringing upon the rights of its citizens. It's nothing more than that. But what basically happens is if you're in one of these countries, and this includes countries like the US and the UK, you can look this up online and see the full list. Any one of these countries can, if it's in their interests, or they say it's in their interests, can actually demand information from any company located in any of these other countries regarding their user base. So if you're in the US and you are wanting to find out information about what this particular citizen was doing on any given day, and you know that he was using a VPN service that was located in the UK, you could potentially reach out to UK and actually demand that they hand over the logs from this particular company for the US to sift through and see what's going on there. So ideally, when you're looking at these VPN services, you want to find one that is located in a country that actually values the privacy of its citizens, and that can't have all of the information that they have on their customers be demanded to be handed over to one of these countries. So if the one that I generally recommend people use, this is the one that I personally use, I've been using it for many, many years at this point, is NordVPN. It has all of these things. It's also very, very cheap. You can usually find deals online for it's like 3 years for $70 or something like that. It's very cheap. That's the one I personally use. Do I trust them? I don't really trust any of them in particular, but I trust them a lot more than my internet service provider, and I trust them a lot more than the websites that I'm visiting. Obviously, there are additional steps that have to be taken after this if you're really worried about your privacy and security. This is only this is a baseline. It's a really, really important baseline. You can't skip this step. So if when now that we're kind of into this, level 1 stuff, this is stuff everybody should be doing. Today, go get yourself a VPN subscription. Get it for your whole family. You can install these on pretty much all of your devices. You can put them on your phones, be they Apple or Android. You can put them on, Windows, Macs, Linux, any of that stuff. It'll work on all of them. The only things that won't generally work with a VPN, or at least they don't have like built-in VPN functionality, are things like smart TVs. They often don't have VPN capability built into them. But you can even go, there's a website called flashrouters.com. You can go there and you can actually buy a router that has a VPN on it from them. And so you could encrypt your entire home network in one of these VPN connections. So I would recommend getting one of these today and encrypting all of your devices with using a VPN with all of your devices. Encrypt all of your internet traffic. This is the best thing you can be doing to secure your digital life, to make yourself feel a little bit more private, a little more secure today. So go do it. We'll start getting into some more topics in future videos. And if you liked this video, you want to hear more, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be putting out some more content coming up real soon here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.